All right, welcome to the trenches. I'm Sam Mays. This is the Oklahoma Sooner versus West Virginia post-game show. Sooners with a big win over West Virginia, 59-20, and what was a massive bounce back game. Obviously, featuring a historic performance by Dylan Gabriel. To think that he holds a record now for total touchdowns in a game at the University of Oklahoma is absolutely insane, considering the incredible quarterbacks that just in my time, I got in Oklahoma in 2000. Just think of the quarterbacks that I've seen in Norman since 2000. That Dylan Gabriel is now holding that record. This is the house of Baker Mayfield. It's the house of Jalen Hurts and Kyler Murray and Jason White and just historic player, Heisman Trophy winner after Heisman Trophy winner after Heisman Trophy winner. And Dylan Gabriel gets himself into the record books with an 8-touchdown performance that was magnificent. It was everything that he needed to be in this game. Last couple of weeks have been a little bit weird for DG. 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, we're talking about Heisman Trophy caliber quarterback. We're talking about a kid that 100% is getting that respect nationally for potentially being in New York City on that Heisman weekend. And then you have these two games in Kansas and Oklahoma State. Kansas was weird because of, in my opinion, a coordinator's decision to not put the ball in their best player's hand. And then Oklahoma State, I think, they still have 492 yards of offense, but a loss is a loss is a loss. And, now I get on social media last week and Dylan Gabriel's getting flack. He's being talked about. He's being, I don't want to say necessarily disrespected, but there's some doubts, in Sooner Nation in regards to how good of a player Dylan Gabriel is. And I feel like, I can't forget Josh Heupel. That's right. Thank you, Chicken 1515. It's just one of those deals that I think this performance kind of maybe brings back some faith from the Sooner fan base into DG and this offense in general. Last week, they had, I think, 4 carries in the quarterback run for negative yardage, which was just insane to me. Today, the first 3 touchdowns he scored, I'm pretty sure were on the ground. I mean, it was great to see them implement that again. It's a huge weapon for Oklahoma to get DG active in the run game. He's not just a quick quarterback. This is a kid that is a talented runner, understands where his body's at in space. He makes good decisions when he's on the field running the football. He tucks it well. This is somebody that 100% has got some running back qualities. So to see him get involved in the run game early was fantastic. I thought that Sawchuk played excellent in this game. You're talking about somebody who has had an up and down season. I think he first burst onto the stage, last year in that Oregon bowl game. Everybody was super excited to see him perform, and he's got great speed, and he's kind of a workhorse in that game. And then it's just kind of been this, you see moments where he's flashed. I thought today he was dynamic. As much as I love Tyree Walker, the thing that he doesn't have is run away from you speed, and Sawchuk absolutely levels up that running back room in regards to RB1 with some breakaway speed, some home run hitting capability. So it was good to see him get out there and perform. Obviously, Drake Stoops, unbelievable performance by Stoops, right? I think he had an all-time performance for him personally. At one point, it was like 143 yards, and I'm pretty sure he caught a couple more passes after that. Like, that dude was exceptional. I have the stats pulled up in front of me, but he was great tonight. I love Drake Stoops for multiple reasons. I think he's a total football player. He's physical. He's passionate. He runs excellent routes. He's a student of the game. He makes the right decision. He's an asset to any quarterback. Drake Stoops as a receiver makes your quarterback better. He's that snuggie, right? He's that warm, comforting, get out of jail free card that you can trust to run back to the quarterback. You can trust to be where he's supposed to be. And if you're a running back, you'll love him too because he's blocking his tail off downfield. Love watching Drake perform. I'm going to be sad to see him go. I don't know what Drake's plans are after college football. I wonder what his straight line 40 would be in regards to the NFL. You don't have to be a giant to be effective in the NFL. We have some smaller guys out there that have done some great things over the year. I mean, Danny Woodhead was an NFL player for a length of time. So I don't know that Drake's got the straight line speed to get himself in that conversation, but I think he's such a well-rounded, polished young man that if he somehow ran a 40 that was comparable, I think there's somebody that would get out there and draft him because of the total player that he is. I thought the Oklahoma offensive line probably had their best performance in 5 weeks in this game. West Virginia's no slouch. I'm not necessarily looking at that team and thinking there's a whole bunch of juggernauts on that defensive front by any means, but there's some guys that might get a chance at the next level. And I thought that Oklahoma performed well protecting Dylan Gabriel. I thought they ran the ball successfully. It was like someone grabbed them by their jerseys, like they needed to be grabbed, and brought some attention to the detail. I don't remember seeing any crazy penalties in this game from that group, also, which is good. Obviously, but I think it was Matauer that kicked out for protecting his guy, but I also probably would have been kicked out in that moment. There's nothing that pisses me off more than watching a defender stand over my running back or receiver, the lights starting flickering. It's an unsafe position for your skill player to be in. As an offensive lineman, it's your duty. It is your job to get in there and mix it up. Now, the next play that he got kicked out in, I'm sure there was some unnecessary things that he did there, but I have no problem with him disrupting that group that was surrounding your guy, right? That's what our entire job is. That's what entire mindset is. On and off the field, is to protect, to take care of your guys, take care of your skill players. And so I can appreciate him getting over there and doing those things in that moment. This is not a penalty that's going to kick him out for part of next game. It's just, obviously he had to leave this game, which is great. And I'm sure he will be talked to, when he gets in the locker room or tomorrow, or whatever. But at the end of the day, I appreciated Joe Seabee on the sidelines and gave him the old knuckles as he was walking out of the stadium. So it is what it is. Defensively, I feel like this might have been one of the best performances I've seen on that defensive line in a while. I know they've also been kind of, I don't want to say necessarily attacked, but people don't have a whole lot of faith in the Oklahoma defensive front. They have done an incredible job recruiting that position for this next season. They're going to bring in some help. There's no doubt there, but when you have another 4-down goal line stand, that's incredible. That's great effort coming off the line of scrimmage. That's striking the offensive line with your hands, getting into the backfield and being disruptive. I thought you saw it all day long. Every time that you want to cheer on a linebacker, pat Stutzman on the back, or yell something for Kanik or any of those guys, know that a defensive lineman did something before those moments. Know that a defensive lineman kept the money clean. I love this. Is Rufus Alexander. Rufus is part of the defensive staff right now in Oklahoma, one of my dear friends. Rufus calls it keeping the money clean, right? And you get a good defensive lineman that can keep the linebackers clean, upright, unimpeded by offensive linemen. You get the kind of performances that Stutzman's had this season. You get the kind of performance that that Kanik has had this season. And I love Kip Smith. I think he is going to be a incredible player and somebody that has got an extremely bright future. But I thought that defensive line really showed out today and played a good 4-quarter football. You don't win by that absurd number unless everybody on the team contributes in some way, shape, or form. And I thought that's what you got from Oklahoma, is just one of those well-balanced performances. And it was just good, from a mental standpoint. It was good to see everybody just kind of come together and have a good game, right? I mean, Oklahoma is arguably the most talented team in the Big 12. To see them lose a couple of games to two less talented teams definitely has to be tough for Sooner Nation and tough for those guys on that team, and tough to go back, to the locker room and back to the drawing board and be on campus. I mean, no one in this conference deals with the same type of pressure that Oklahoma does each and every week. No one in this conference feels that drive to be perfect, that pressure to be perfect. And these guys go home and the families are disappointed, the student body is disappointed, the campus newspaper's got a story in it, the media is talking about it, social media is a disaster, everybody wants people fired and this kid's no good and this and that, and all these things. And for them to go home and have to clear their mind of all those distractions and all those negative narratives and go back to work is not an easy thing to do. I feel like this last week of practice from Oklahoma had to have been great. I'm sure Venables would tell you that in the post game. If you ask them the question, that they had a good week of practice, you can just tell they look prepared, they look poised, they went out there and executed extremely well. So huge bounce back win. I've got to say that I was not necessarily, I'm not alarmed by any means, but it's interesting to watch Sooner Nation react to this team at times. The Bedlam loss sucked. Obviously, you hate the way that it went down and all the mistakes that were made, and then the situation with the referees and all the things. Like, it was a negative. It sucked. I'm sure. So I'm sure it was just a crappy situation for all OU fans. But you have to look big picture here and understand from what we saw a year ago to where this team is at today, those are two totally different things. I don't know that I want to necessarily call it a rebuilding season as much as a rebooting season. They had to turn the thing on, unplug it all, plug it back in, and reset. And I think that Venables has done that defensively for sure. And I think as the season goes along, you're seeing little things where there's some improvements from each unit on the field. Are they SEC ready right now in regards to chasing the championship year one? I would say probably not. But compared to what they were a year ago, the Oklahoma football team has improved. You can tell that they are way more centered, way more. There's way more direction, way more focus, right, on the big plan, the big idea, whatever that might be, moving into next season. I mean, he's setting them up for success. So I give BV a lot of credit for where this team has gone and how much better they've gotten this season compared to last. Last they look lost. This year there's purpose. This year's they're just improved, and there's still a lot of improvement to be made. There's no question about it. But good to see them mentally, physically bounce back from the last 2 weeks of negative performances from the Oklahoma Sooners. Trying to think if I've missed anybody that I want to point out. Good to see Stogner get involved. This is a kid that I think body type wise is extremely special. Can be a huge weapon for Oklahoma. He really hasn't gotten there consistently. I almost feel like Spencer Rattler ruined him a little bit. A bunch of high balls over the middle. If you guys remember his first year, that dude took some shots, and it was because he was just getting hung out to dry over and over and over again. And I wonder, how much 2 years of that have impacted him as far as his just not necessarily willingness to go put it on the line, but you get jacked up enough times, it changes who you are in the football field. So it was good to see him get out there and get involved and play at a high level. Jeff Lebby, who knows, right? I don't understand how your starting quarterback has 4 carries last week against Oklahoma State, where then he comes out today and you just tear it up on the ground with him. Like we all knew going into the Bedlam matchup that Dylan Gabriel and the run game is a part of what this Oklahoma offense's identity is, and you just didn't see any of that pushed last week. Very, very strange. I think Dylan Gabriel. Somebody mentioned this on Twitter, and I think they nailed it. The comp for Dylan Gabriel. Someone said Johnny Manziel. Some article did, and I'm not buying that. I think the comp is very much Russell Wilson. I think Dylan Gabriel struggles a little bit more with the deep ball than Wilson does. But when Russell Wilson is at his best, what's he doing? 65, 70 yards on the ground, using his feet, creating, running the football, extending plays. That's Dylan Gabriel. I think it helps him settle into the position. I think it helps him settle in to that quarterback role, just the more active he can be in that run game. He's a football player. I mean, the kid is just a good football player. So I think that Lebby, starting there offensively, really, went out there and did some good things, made some good decisions. Gabriel made some great decisions on the field. There were some accuracy issues, I thought, a little early in the game that got settled out pretty quick, and everybody just seemed to have a heyday in that receiving room. So it was great to see those guys get out there and really kind of unleash, unravel, unfold this offensive game plan in a way that they haven't been able to do in the last couple of weeks, due to whether it was weather against Kansas and then obviously the Oklahoma State situation, which was just odd. Even though they had 492 yards of offense, I felt like it was very boxed in, right? Never really got to spread its wings. So I think Lebby came out and coach pissed off today. A lot of negative narrative surrounding his name, and people want him fired. And, this is Oklahoma, right? This is what you get as a coordinator. If you're in Oklahoma and you're failing, people, they react negatively to it. And I thought he showed up today, brought his lunch pail with him, and had a brilliant, well-called, executed game plan that was impressive. So, I mean, they scored 50-plus points. I mean, that was a pretty darn good performance by the Oklahoma Sooners, no doubt. I'm trying to think what else. We'll take some questions here. If we are honest, we benefited that Green is inaccurate. Yeah, to talk some negatives, I would say the secondary has had some issues. I think the last few weeks, can't necessarily put my thumb on it. I think guys are not necessarily failing scheme wise as far as just seeing it unravel and making good decisions down the field, putting their bodies in the right place at the right time. And I think there's been a struggle and maybe some nerves on the back end of that defense the last few weeks. It seems like Oklahoma's very susceptible to big plays at times. And if Green was more accurate, they definitely would have put some more points up and had some bigger shots down the field. So, yeah, I think that's a fair point for sure. Oklahoma State stunk it up today. KC fan, I don't know that is the term for what Oklahoma State did today. Good Lord, that was a disaster. Is Stutzman so important that having him back made for a better defensive performance? Yeah, I would say so. I would say so for sure. Stutzman is like having a quarterback out there. He is the defensive heartbeat. He's a playmaker. He is a organizer. He is the voice in the huddle. He's a stability. He's a stabilizing player for that team defensively. So when he's out there playing well, making plays, I think the confidence of the defense absolutely gets elevated for sure, especially in that linebacking room. Yeah, the point was to force Green to throw it because he's not a great thrower, so you expected him to miss passes. That's true, but I think what the last question or last person's question really was more so that he had open targets. Like just because you want to force Green to throw the ball because he's inaccurate, that's one thing. But guys running free in the secondary is another thing. So not every quarterback is as inaccurate as Green is. Stoops is a stud. Going to miss him next year. Hope he goes into coaching. I hope he does too. It'd be good to see both those young men take on the coaching ranks. I think it's Isaac is coaching. I don't know if he's still in Norman or not, but it's kind of the family business, and it would be cool to see Stoops on the sidelines as a head coach one day for sure. Oklahoma Sooner, big thank you. Give the video a like, guys. I would really appreciate it. Give me the likes if you like the content. Also, hit the subscribe button to the page if you get a chance. I'd appreciate that. Also, I know a lot of you guys are out there celebrating tonight, a huge victory. Got to be one of those moments where everybody kind of takes a deep breath. I'm not from Oklahoma originally, but I grew up in Ohio, so I'm pretty familiar with blue blood fan bases, and there's a bunch of y'all that live and die with the Oklahoma Sooners. So enjoy your night tonight and have some drinks and celebrate a well-deserved win. Way to refocus this team as they head into the rest of the season. And at this point, it was a three-way tie, I'm pretty sure, for second place. So Oklahoma's Big 12 championship aspirations are still alive, and they did the job today. Stoops helping to overcome the Andrew Anthony loss 100%. 100%. Stoops is wide receiver one, and I absolutely called that probably week 3 or 4 this year. I mean, I think he is the guy. Obviously, Anthony is a physical specimen, deep threat guy, but Stoops, as far as possession receivers go in college football, I don't know that there's a whole lot of. You're talking about 10 guys, 12 guys that are probably better than Stoops in D1 right now, as far as just sheer possession receivers. Throw the ball, playmaking capability. He's not going to run away from you when he gets loose. But as far as just getting the ball in his hands and having him get you a first down or make a play, move the chains, that dude's elite at it. So yeah, he's been great. We'll see. We'll see what kind of speed Stoops has at the end of the day. Like, I think he's got all the intangibles to play at the next level, but I just don't know how fast. Like, he might be slow in regards to what NFL players run. Like, it might not be like, oh, he's a mid-range guy. Like, I just can't. I don't look him on the field and think to myself that he's a real blazer. I think he's pretty quick in that first 10 yards, which is what you want to be as an inside receiver. But that last 10, I don't think he's blowing down any doors by any means. Thank you, Derek. I appreciate you listening and watching. Mooney, I probably missed it, but what do you think about the lineman getting ejected? I would have got ejected 100%. Yeah, like I would have. Let me say this: the second personal foul that got him ejected was probably a little foolish. Like, let's not take revenge. I understand everybody's pretty hot and upset about what happened in the previous play, but I'll tell you right now, lights go out, and I'm an offensive lineman, and I look into the end zone, and my receiver is down on the ground, surrounded by a bunch of white jerseys. I'm 100% going over there and throwing someone to the ground. There's no way that he's not getting escorted back to my sidelines after that. It's an unsafe, dangerous place for him to be. And it's my job solely, right, as an offensive lineman to make sure that that dude gets up and gets escorted back to the huddle or escorted back to the sidelines. So I 100% would have been throwing bodies also in that moment. You take care of your guys. Nothing frustrates me more than watching today's game and you don't see the offensive lineman hustling to the immediately to where the ball carrier is to surround them. Now, a lot of that is probably because the game has changed a little bit and it's not as volatile as it used to be. Because 20 years ago, what's happening in those huddle ups and those piles around the running back is somebody stepping on his foot, somebody stepping on his hand, somebody's doing something to him, right? Like after the whistle, not enough. Now there's too many cameras, so I think a lot of that stuff has been stifle as far as after play antics. Kids just can't get away with as much anymore. So it doesn't seem like there's the sense of urgency to surround them like there was 20 years ago. But yeah, you surround my running back or receiver, I'm absolutely throwing some hands, 100%. We're getting you out of that situation. Yeah, he could be a Wes Welker type guy, Casey fan, but Wes could fly. Wes could absolutely fly. Was legit speed, no question. Anything else? Well, it's one of those games that was just so much of a blowout that there's not a whole lot to harp on here. So it was exactly what Oklahoma needed for sure. So big time victory for the Sooners. Big thank you for you guys for joining me here. I love these post games; they're so much fun. Look forward to next week's. Also, make sure you check out all my content, my colleagues' content at selloutcrowd.com. Hit that like button for me. I would really appreciate it. Also, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you don't mind. I love doing these. They're so much fun. And feedback is always great. I love when you guys, send me messages, send me an email at sam@selloutcrowd.com. I would love those emails and just let me know what you think of the show and how I can get better or things you'd like to hear me talk about. I always appreciate you guys' feedback. So once again, thank you so much. Check out selloutcrowd.com and follow me on all the social medias. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.